Broadcasting live from the offices of policebackground.net. This is the Police Applicant Podcast with your host, Ken Roybal.
Hey, welcome everybody to a YouTube Live, the Police Applicant Podcast, and it's myself and Donovan Heavener. Donovan, what's been going on, man?
Nothing, just living the dream every day.
Living the dream every day. I love that. Because I am living the dream every day. And this is going to be a PNW episode because Steve Gould and Minerva are unable to make it. It's a different time. Minerva's kind of busy and Steve is working. So what can we say? But for everybody that tunes in on YouTube afterwards, welcome. Hello. We're going to be talking about integrity matters today. And for our Facebook people, this is also being simulcast on the Police Applicant Group on Facebook. If you have not joined there yet, go ahead and scoot over Facebook, go to Police Applicant Group North America, and that's our Facebook page. But the real destination for this is YouTube to get to know our YouTube folks. If you have any questions, let me put my cool little thing here. Where's my cool little thing? That's not it. There it is. And so there. And if you, I just put a banner up there for people to ask questions and things like that. So if you happen to get in later, what is it, that thing I did where I said, subscribe and like, subscribe and like. And you can also add questions later on after this is already done, and we'll answer them for you. But we apologize. Donovan, I just looked at the YouTube thing, and we haven't done a YouTube live in 2 months.
It's been a while, yeah. I felt like, I don't know, I felt left behind. I mean, I've been on for a while.
I said I was going to, we're going to do the YouTubes to try and get them up there. But we apologize for being absent. Every once in a while we get busy, and it's supposed to be summer, and people are out doing stuff. So I apologize. We get busy, but we'll be back. Let me check here. I want to make sure our Facebook Live is going, Facebooking live. This is so fun. Where am I? How do you even do this? Okay. You're not on Facebook very much, are you?
Me? No. Don't spend a lot of time on it.
Let's see. There it is. My shortcuts. And it says we're live on Facebook, so that's good. But let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that up, and then if you want to get your there we go. If you want to get a police applicant consultation, policebackground.net is the place to go. That's my cheap, shameless plug for that. But let's get on.
It works, right?
It does. How, you know what? I haven't talked to you since yesterday, but so we just did a episode of the podcast with Kent PD in Washington, Sergeant Tong and Officer Cortinas, and one of the things that I ask them a lot, our guests a lot, is how recruitment is going when we have guests that are recruitment officers or background investigators. And you know what? Donovan, you're in it right now, and I talk to candidates every day as well. And I'm kind of curious, what's your take latest? We did our podcast, but what's the latest on recruitment? Is it ramping up a little bit? Is it still the same?
I would say, as far as being on the recruiting side and the background side, it's brutal for us right now. There's a lot of good candidates out there. Unfortunately, the candidates that are really good, you have a lot of departments fighting for them. So if you're a good candidate and you keep your nose clean and you handle your background properly, basically your personal history questionnaire or personal history statement, however you say it, if you handle it properly, agencies are going to be fighting over you. I mean, we're changing now the way we actually do our conditional offers. We're issuing a conditional offer right away when they come in for the background interview, so that if they look good, we can start moving on to the medical and the psych and the polygraph right away.
And one thing to mention, now that you mentioned the conditional job offer, is that I get so many people that send me messages and go, "Oh my gosh, I got a conditional job offer," and they really honestly feel that it's a job offer.
Right.
But go ahead and explain what a conditional job offer is.
So a conditional job offer is exactly what it says, is that, you have some conditions you need to meet before you get a final job offer. On ours, basically says you have to pass the background, you have to pass a polygraph, you have to pass a psychological exam, you have to pass a medical exam before you get your final offer. So there's a lot of steps when you get a conditional. I always tell applicants when they get a conditional job offer, whether it's from us or another agency, don't leave any other processes. You gotta stay in there. Keep fighting until you get that final offer from an agency where they give you a start date. That's when you can start pulling out of processes.
Yeah, so it's really a conditional job offer is just a legal
Mhm.
documents that they need to give you to put you on notice before they can do some of the medical stuff and some of the other things. So just know that it's a cool thing to look at, but it's not a job offer. It's conditional on you passing all the tests.
Yep.
And so that's what that's about. I have a question from a Washington candidate, and public testing, is that what they use in Washington?
Public safety testing. Yeah.
Public safety testing. So if you take, do they do the psych exams there?
They do not. There's a agency. It's called Public Safety Psychological Services. They're the one. They're a big one in the state who does a lot of psychs.
That's the one. That's the one I got the question about. So the question was, once you take that, once you get done with your psych
Mhm.
evaluation, how long does it take before you get the results?
Every psychologist varies. Um, Public safety psychological services, I've used them in the past. They get back to us fairly quickly. It's usually within a couple of days. It just depends upon if they're waiting on some paperwork from the candidate. Sometimes there'll be some things in their past that they need some clarification on. The psychologist that I currently use, he's good about getting me, well, actually getting the chief the response within a day or two after the exam, so that we can get moving on it. They understand that we're under some timelines that we need to get these wrapped up so we can get those final job offers out. So
Okay.
ours is pretty quick. Psychological services, they do a pretty good job of getting them done pretty quick too. It's usually a couple days though.
Couple days. And that's back to you.
That's back to the department. Yeah, yep, yep.
And then how long before the candidate finds out?
At my department, my chief will let me know as soon as he gets word from the psychologist, and I will immediately call that candidate, let them know that they've passed the psychological, because that's one that I think most candidates stress over because they don't know what it's about and what they're looking for. So I like to
Yeah.
at least relieve that stress, and that's normally the last test that I'll do on a candidate. And a lot of background guys are the same way.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Now I'll have an answer for someone. The psych results. I mean, with LEPD, it takes I think about a couple of weeks,
Okay.
and then they have an internal thing where you can go online and check your status, and I don't know how long it takes for that, but generally about within a couple of weeks. I think they may have changed it by now, but let's get to the subject at hand. We both have stories about this particular subject, and the title of this is Integrity Matters. And I can't stress that enough. We talk about this a lot about being honest, and it's a black and white issue. There's honest and there's dishonest, and there's different ways to lie. There's lying by commission. There's lying by omission, and little white lies and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you are lying. And
Mhm.
so, is there a way to get past that? Because there's candidates, Donovan, that inadvertently leave stuff out. I mean, it could be as simple as have you ever been written up? No. You go down there and you go to their workplace and you find one write up. You know, are you going to
Hmm.
DQ them because it was a write up from 2 years ago and it was for something silly? They were chewing gum or whatever else. Is that a lie? Is that an inadvertent omission? Are you going to DQ them for that? What's your take on that?
My take on that is if I find something like that, I will call the candidate or have them come back in. We'll sit down, we'll discuss it. And you get a good feeling from the candidate whether they were trying to hide it or whether it was just I completely forgot about it. So there's ways to get past that. We just had a candidate that we just interviewed that they completely forgot they had an issue with their insurance in a different state. Their license got suspended, and this was several years ago. And it was just basically they didn't have insurance on hand, and they just needed to go to court and get it taken care of. So they didn't even think when the question came up, "Has your license ever been suspended?" In their head, it was, "I just didn't pay my insurance, and I needed to get it back up to date." They didn't think of their license being suspended. So that was just a clear oversight. So we were able to move past that. They didn't really withhold any information from us. They just clearly forgot exactly what happened. So that's an easy one to get over.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other ones that ooh, you don't have a chance.
What do you think about Daniqua's comment?
um, yeah, if they're truthfully lying, I mean, truthfully lying, I guess that's a bad way to put it. If they are really lying, a lie is a lie. Um, However, people will forget some things that happen in life, and some of it's understandable. But boy, there's the ones that we're DQing right now, and they're people are lying over dumb things that's not going to disqualify them, but they try
Mhm.
to hide it from us. They try to lie about it, and that's what's getting them disqualified.
What about the ones where they? I just talked to someone the other day about this. They were DQ'd by an agency
Hmm.
because it was their second go round. They came in and I think they were DQ'd. I think they were DQ'd, or maybe I don't think they were DQ'd the first time. Something happened, the test ran out or whatever. Anyway, so they filled in or completed a PHS. They turned it in last year. And so the
Hmm.
tests expire, they come in and they have to update their test, their PHS. So then they complete it and they turn it in. They got DQ'd uh, because they put something on the 2021 PHS and they inadvertently left it off of the 22 PHS and they got DQ'd for it.
Hmm.
And I told them, I said that's the stupidest thing that department does.
Did and they were never called in to have a chance to explain it.
No, they were just DQ'd.
Yeah, no, you got to give. I think best practices is calling them in, give them a chance to explain it. I mean, why wasn't this included on your prior PHS? Tell me why. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you can explain why it wasn't. But just to solely DQ them just because it didn't match up, I think it's a little rough.
Yeah, that's kind of low hanging fruit for me because I think that because I told the candidate, I said, "What what does that even mean?" Because they ended up talking to a case manager who told them why they were DQ'd,
Hmm.
and I said, "If you were trying to hide it, why would you have put it on the prior PHS?"
Right.
And then the whole thing of, well, it doesn't match this other PHS. That to me. So Donovan and I are going on record that if somebody DQs you for something you already disclosed, that's stupid.
Hmm.
So I just think it's
Yeah.
dumb when departments do that. And it's not it's not
Yeah.
like they were trying to lie. Um, and Daniqua is from Great Britain, so
Hmm.
wonky. Oh, well, no, I think wonky's an
Yeah.
Americanism too. But yeah, I don't really care for that type of thing. And I mean, we both have stories about candidates that have outright lied to our faces, and
Oh yeah.
that's different. So so the inadvertent things that are pretty simple that you can go, I forgot. I got suspended in high school. Do you care about that? For someone,
If they got suspended in high school, no.
no, that they forgot to mention it.
If they no, I'm not real overly concerned about that. Especially, I mean, age would depend. I mean, but more than likely than that, I'm not going to really care about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, there are some things that are so far back, or some BIs go back 10 years ago.
Hmm.
10 years ago, and they say, "Oh, you didn't put this down." And I'm like, 10 years ago? I don't remember even 10 years ago. And what's really bad is the is candidates that are, oh, I don't know, they're 40 and they
Hmm.
apply. And they ask me, how far back do I have to go on my PHS? And I go, you got to go all the way back till forever. Your first job, the first place you lived, all that kind of stuff. And then they tell me, I can't I can't remember half that stuff. Am I going to get in trouble for it? And I'm like, I don't think so. But as long as it's
No.
something it's not important, like you got arrested or something like that.
Right. Yep.
Is that how do you feel the same way? If I mean, going
Yeah.
back way years back?
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, the time and distance away from something always makes a difference. So if they, like you said, if they're coming in, like say they're in the military and they retire out of the military after 20 years, so they're what, 38, 40 years old, and then we're asking them questions about what happened in high school. Um, yeah, I anticipate they're going to forget something back then. I'm more concerned
Yeah.
about what's happened in the past 10 years or so.
Do you find that some agencies are just really hardcore about some
Yes.
of this stuff? Like they make the biggest deal about these things. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I don't know why that is. Why some BIs are just
I don't mind because I picked up some good candidates because of it. Where
yeah.
they've got passed on, and they're like, "That's the agency I really wanted to work." And then I talked to them, and they're like, "Nope, I'm coming over here now because you guys are actually thinking this through." So yeah, I I scratch my head on what some of these guys disqualify people for, but for me, I mean, I kind of like it because it gives me a good candidate then.
Hmm. Well, this is an early live, so we're getting questions from Daniqua.
Yeah, look at
I
that.
recall filling out an application and trying to remember how many jobs I had, as I had many at one time. At times, yeah, that happens all the time. That's another thing, Donovan, is that these some BIs they'll DQ you for forgetting a job, and
Yep.
you may have been in college going back and forth getting jobs here and there for 3 months at a time, and then you've got all these jobs, and then they ding you for not remembering some 3 month job.
Right.
I don't
Yep.
agree with that.
No, I don't either. And I always tell the candidates too. I mean, if they come in and they've had quite a few jobs, I always let them know, hey, we're going over your PHS right now. Um, if you remember another job that you had several years ago because you've worked so many, just just let me know because they will. They'll all of a sudden, oh, I forgot this job on there. I forgot this job on there. It's not like they're trying to hide it from me. It's they just literally forgot. Now if they say, oh, I forgot I got arrested 3 years ago, now that's a different story. I mean, that's a
Hmm.
little bit bigger thing. But for getting a job, if you've worked it for 3 months, I'm not. Again, you call me and say, "Hey, I forgot this," or I find out about it. Again, it's one of those things. Have the conversation and let them explain it.
Yeah, I agree with you. There are some BIs like Donovan and myself that we just don't take all this stuff as seriously as all that, and we can work around stuff if we honestly feel that it was inadvertent, or it's not a big deal, or what the whole thing is, that for me, if somebody tells me something and then it shows up, if somebody doesn't tell me something and it shows up later, but it's not a big issue, I'm not going to care.
Mm-mm.
But there are BIs that do care.
Right, right. Any
And
little thing comes up, you start hearing the word integrity being thrown around, and I'm like, just we need to just think things through logically here.
yeah, and if you're listening, or you're listening later on YouTube and you have a question about this, go ahead and post it down below, and we will answer it for you later. If you've ever been in a situation where you got messed over by a BI because of something that was probably pretty easy to explain, then I want to hear from you too. I know Donovan does.
Mm-hmm.
Because believe it or not, amongst BIs, there are some BIs that get really torqued about the silliest little things. And then there's people like Donovan and I, we're like, this is not even important to us. And we don't really care, about these little things, the tiny little things and if a BI can look at an application and say, why in the world what would it be worth it to lie about this issue? And if it makes no sense and it wouldn't change the background one way or another, then you're probably going to get past Donovan and I. But some BIs are really hardcore about it.
They
And
are. Yep.
yeah. And Donovan, when you slap the label lacks integrity on a candidate, that lasts forever.
Right. It does. Especially in Washington State, it does, because I mean, that's with the reform laws and everything. Man, once you get that integrity thing slapped on you, yeah, it's tough to shake that, because you're going to be questioned all the time then on that. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty serious thing. So I mean, again, and when I start off my interviews, and I'm sure you did too as well, Ken, is basically just telling them, look, this is the time to just. I always say it's almost like a Catholic church where you can do confession. Just let it all out, because about 98% of what you're going to tell me is not going to get you disqualified. You not telling me and trying to hide it, that's what's going to get you disqualified. And I think that holds true. I mean, those that are truthful with us, they don't have a problem with this.
Yeah. And let's see what our favorite Daniqua has to say. I came across a BI who thought I was lying about where I lived, but it wasn't that I was lying. I was a foster kid and moved a lot. So it was like bloody hell, mate. Yeah, you know what? In her situation, this is an interesting thing. You're a kid who's being shuffled from foster home to foster home. How are you supposed to remember all those addresses and everything? I mean, part of being a BI is supposed to have a little bit of compassion for people and to be logical about things. But Donovan, you and I both know that is not always the case.
No,
Where it's the BI looks at it and they think it's one. There's only one way to look at things. You can't be a critical thinker and have different scenarios laid out. It can't be black and white when you're doing backgrounds. But some BIs, this is not a BI bashing episode, but we've always said that on this podcast, the Police Applicant Podcast and the YouTube Lives, we're gonna keep it as honest as we can as possible, and let you know that some background investigation units and some BIs are flawed. Mm-hmm. They're flawed. They're not perfect, and some are, for lack of a better word, some BIs are jerks.
Right.
I've known them, and I've told them they're jerks. So. Yep. And that's a bad thing. But aside from that, there have been cases that you and I have both handled where candidates, they just had some terrible lies.
Yeah.
Some terrible lies. And do you have any stories, Donovan?
I've been sitting on one for you, Ken, because I haven't had a chance to even talk to you about this one.
Go for it.
And the best part is, there was never really a lie said. So I had a candidate come in, indicated that he was married, told me what year he was married, and then on the PHS, it also indicated that he had a girlfriend, and it showed he started dating this girlfriend a couple months before he got married, and that he was still currently dating the girlfriend, and that he had gotten divorced like 3 years ago. So I was trying to figure it all out. I'm like, so what's going on? I said, the divorce happened because your wife found out about your girlfriend. Nope, she never knew. And I said, well, you have a kid here. Is that with your wife? Nope, that's with my girlfriend. I said, did your wife ever know about this child? Nope, she never knew. I said, so what'd your girlfriend think about you being married? She never knew. I said, wait, you never told anyone that you lived 2 lives? Yep. I had no other way. I had to have a good conversation with him about integrity. and say, this is not what we're looking for in law enforcement. You need to get things squared away and try to fix this, because we can't have this going on, because you're just not being truthful with the people in your life. So how can you be truthful in the job? So that one I've been sitting on, and I think that's a once in a lifetime one.
But you bring up a very good point, because a lot of times when you hear about background investigators and lies, honesty, a lot of times people go, you lied to your BI. But sometimes it's just that you lack integrity in your life,
Mhm.
in other areas of your life, or maybe you lied, or you were, you just didn't have any integrity whatsoever in your personal life. And that can get you DQ'd as fast as lying to the BI.
Yep.
So, I mean, I've had tons and tons of candidates lie to me, and it's really funny. One of my favorite ones is, and you could use this different scenarios where a candidate will lie to you, and then you hit them up about it. Like, I found this out, and I'm sitting across from the candidate. Just this happened a number of times, and I sit across from him and go, "Hey, so how come you just didn't tell us about this?" Well, my buddy, who's a cop, he convinced me that I didn't have to disclose it. You guys would never find out. And it's always the buddy who's the cop, right? It's always the buddy who's the cop that's giving advice to candidates. And my question to them always is, how many background investigations has your buddy done? Always none. And so, a word to the wise: if a buddy of yours if a buddy of yours who's a cop tells you you don't have to disclose this, disclose it, because that'll get you DQ'd for life. Here's the question: Facebook user, if you don't sign in or give Facebook permission to use your name, you just come up as Facebook user. So I don't know who that is, but hello. I know I worry I'll forget something that happened 15 years ago. Golly. And it depends, right? It depends so now what I'm getting from this, Donovan, is that this person doesn't know what they might forget that happened 15 years ago. That might come up. So in that vein, what can a candidate do? What can a candidate do to try and jog their memory about stuff?
Things I always say is, number one, it's probably a good idea. You can always pay for a background check online, where those companies will pull all your addresses, all that stuff. Sometimes those even have your prior jobs. But I always tell candidates as well, pull a credit history report, because that has a lot of information on it as well that's going to help jog your memory. Just look through old tax records. If you keep your physical tax records, that'll help you with the addresses. I remember when I started filling out all these PHSs, it was tough, and I moved from one agency to another, and I didn't save my first one, so it was rough bringing that all together. So that's the kind of stuff I did, is I started pulling all these different reports, to just jog my memory as to what was out there. Do I think I missed something? I probably did, but I wasn't trying to hide it. If you got arrested 15 years ago and you forget it, I don't think that's going to count. If you forgot an address because you were an Army brat and your parents moved all over the place, that's understandable.
Right. And one of the other things you can do is, this is for the person that posted this question, is that you can grab a PHS, and one of the PHSs that's easily accessible is the California Post PHS, and they have a lot of questions on there. Go over the PHS and then just rack your brain and say, did I ever do this? Did I ever do that? And go over it and then try and jog your memory like that. Daniqua brings up a very good thing that happens often. I can recall filling out an application and trying to remember how many jobs I had, as I had many at one time. And what I forgot to mention when we posted this before was that you can go, and I'm not even sure how you do it anymore, but I know because it's online now. But the Social Security Administration will the Security Administration will allow you to get a job history. They won't tell you the years that you worked at these companies, but they will tell you the names of the companies that you worked for, and it'll give you a
Mhm.
chronological order. I mean, not chronological, but it'll give you a um, a what do you call it? A history of your employments,
Mhm.
and that has been a lifesaver for a lot of people. Um, Let me see here. Facebook user, where do I give permission to show my info? It should be look on the actual ad for this Facebook Live, and there should be a link on there, something that says give permission to use my info or something like that. But there should be a link on there that you can go and it'll take you to that section where you can give permission. Um, And again, Daniqua says, I lacked integrity in life for a while, ruined relationships, lost jobs. So I cleaned it up so I could move forward, but it's still not a good reputation to have. So, so here we come, here we have somebody who says that I lacked integrity. So this is in her personal life
Mhm.
and she cleaned it up. So now I'm not sure what she's talking about exactly, but this is a good example. What happens if somebody has burned a bunch of bridges in their personal life because of a lack of integrity? Can that affect their background um, if they've cleaned it up, or how does that affect their background?
That's a tough one because normally when I start doing reference checks and stuff, I start going off on different branches and I may end up talking to some of those people that you burned bridges with, and then that doesn't look so well for you. But on the other hand, if you did have a sketchy past, integrity was in question, ruined some relationships, but you've changed your ways and we can show that progression as how you've grown as a person. There's ways to save that background as well. There's a lot of variables in that, but um, just because you may have had not such good integrity younger in your younger days, and ruined some relationships, lost some jobs, as long as you can show, hey, this is how I've cleaned it up. This is how I'm moving forward. I think a lot of BIs, if you're a good candidate, we can get by that. We can show that you are on that path to being that person who needs to be in this profession.
And a lot of it has to do with who you list as references. So
Mhm.
if it was me and I was a knucklehead to a certain person, like I did not pay a loan back or something like that, I probably would not list them as a reference. So,
Right.
and
Right.
that now your family members, you can't get around that. You can't get around it, but with just regular folks, you have to choose your references. Danico says,
Mhm.
I apologize to those I was dishonest to. Some accepted it and others didn't care to hear it, but it's not good either way, and makes it a bit harder at times. So this is what I'm talking about. So the people that she apologized to that didn't accept the apology probably didn't want to list those people as references.
Right.
Now family is a difficult one. That gets touchy. And I think that if you are having problems with a family member who does not like you, you can't get around having to list them as a reference because they're your family. They're not going to accept you not putting them down. So, is there any way to mitigate that? If you think someone's going to say something bad about you, integrity wise, is there a way to mitigate it? I'll go first because I have something that I think about.
Mhm.
Um, if you're on the outs with a family member, it does you no good to keep quiet and let the background investigator get their ears blown out by this family member who hates you and just has so many bad things about you to say about you. What I would do if I was a candidate that is in that position is I would give the background investigator a heads up that this is going to be an issue. Here's where it started, and this is the issues that I've dealt with this family member. So then, when the background investigator gets a hold of them, they're fully aware and they can make a decision based on, or a judgment based on they already have this information. And I mean, that's what I would do. I would give the background investigator a heads up. What would you say about that?
I would say the same thing, because when I go through a PHS with a candidate, and they have all their relatives listed, I go right down the list and say, all right, what's this person going to say? What's this person going to say? What's your relationship like with them? And just be truthful. Tell me. And I've had candidates just tell me, my relationship is not good with that person. They explain what's going on. And as long as we have that advance notice that, hey, there's something going on between, and it's not just a surprise, works out well. Now I've had other candidates, oh, I got a great relationship. All of a sudden, talk to the family, and then they're telling me everything that the candidate did. Then you have some problems.
Yeah, because that can turn into a big mess. So if you let your and I get contacted by candidates and say, when do I disclose this? Because Donovan, a lot of times candidates will turn in a PHS,
Mhm.
and then things will go south, and they'll just get a non-select letter. No one will call them. No one will ask them about it. They'll just be non-selected. And in those cases where you think it could be something that could go bad for you, you might just want to turn in your PHS and slip a little paper in there explaining that this could be an issue with a family member or somebody else. So that way, in the event that that they get your PHS and then they end up doing reference checks ahead of time, that they've got this paper from you that explains what's going on or what had happened. Otherwise, you won't
Yep.
be able to advocate for yourself at all. They'll go off your PHS, they'll not select you. You won't have anything to say about it or an appeal. So does that
Right.
sound reasonable?
Yeah, I think so. The electronic ones as well, because you said slip a piece of paper with it. I mean, that there aren't many paper PHSs anymore,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
normally on the electronic ones, the ones that we use with both companies, there is a comment section right above where you electronically sign. And I have candidates, they put detailed explanations in there on things that I may need further notice on before, I make my decision. But for me, when it comes to those PHSs, I mean, I'll look for automatic disqualifiers on it right away, that the candidate should know about and shouldn't even have selected our agency if they fall under one of those. But if I don't see those automatic disqualifiers, everyone has a story. Everyone has that right to explain what's going on. So I normally will bring people in, probably 95% of the time. If I've got something that's doesn't look quite right, I'm not going to non-select. I'm not going to disqualify. I'll bring them in, let them explain it before we make a decision. Because
Mhm.
again, I think everyone has a story that they deserve. They have that opportunity to tell.
And there's a lot of BIs that don't allow people to do that.
Oh yeah, no,
So
yeah.
I think maybe if there's a way to call the recruitment office or your background investigator if you have one and ask them, hey, how can I get a hard copy of it, or can I email somebody to add on? And then there's a lot of PHSs. I don't know um, about your PHSs, but on the
Mhm.
California Post PHS, on the very last page, it's a whole blank page, and it allows you to add anything that
Yeah,
wasn't on the rest of the PHS. Do you have anything like
right.
that?
No, like I said, the electronic ones, they have that comment section, and I mean, if you type, it just keeps expanding for them. So they can type whatever they need to in there to help explain things. So it does work out nice.
That's cool.
Oh, I like
Daniqua
this one.
says, I'll let you read it then.
So yeah, I went back, found my bio family. Would I have to write them down, or do they not matter? Specifically, my parents, they're not that great at all. I'm going to tell you, Daniqua, if you know about them, you've had any contact with them, write them down. It's part of your life. It's part of your story. I think it's something that you still need to disclose, because it's part of you. And you have all your explanations that, you said you were in foster care growing up. So, I mean, if you don't have that direct contact, a BI should be able to figure out that it's a separate portion, but still is part of you.
Yeah, I agree with that. You have to write it down. I can't tell you how many PHSs that have been turned in and where it says father and they go NA. I'm like, what
Mhm.
is? Were you an immaculate conception? What's the deal here? Because you cannot not have a dad or a
Right.
mom. And these are the ones where I never met my dad. And so, ask your mom, what's dad's name? We don't know where he's at. You haven't seen him in 21 years. What's his name? And then simply put down, never met him. Last contact, 2010, whatever you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But don't leave it blank. Don't leave it blank. You have to put someone there. Everybody has a mom and dad. Everybody.
Yep.
Um,
And you talk about the family. I mean, if you want to get the real story, when people come in and they've been divorced, I always get, well, you don't want to talk to my ex-wife or my ex-husband because they're not going to say anything good.
mm-hmm.
We get that you're divorced, but we still want to talk to them to see what they're going to say. I always ask, what are they going to say about you? Just, let me know what you think they're going to say. And they'll normally tell me. And 9 times out of 10, I'm not surprised them when I talk to the ex-spouse about, the relationship or what they feel about their ex-spouse. So.
And that's interesting too, because I always, a spouse interview is mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
You have to talk to the spouse or the ex-spouse. And I am not shocked. I am not shocked because I'll ask the candidate, okay, so you're divorced. How did that go? And if they say, yeah, that didn't go well. That didn't go well at all. And then I already know when I'm going to call the ex-spouse, they're going to do this. Oh, they're going to do this. And
Right.
I just sit there and I take it with a grain of salt. And if there's something where they say that's really disparaging, I'll ask, do you have anybody else that can corroborate what you're saying?
Right.
And more often than not, they can't. They can't.
Right.
And
Yep.
sometimes they'll just talk to them the candidate will tell you, yeah, there was a messy divorce. And you'll call them up. You'll call the ex-spouse and they'll go, most wonderful person ever. They walk on water. They're just amazing. And then I know, okay, so they want child support or something like that, where they're going to talk nice. But it's not background investigators. You guys, if you have if you have an issue with an ex, and it could be an ex-spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, and it went bad, let the background investigator know this could be an issue because they hate me. And that's just the nature of it. There's a lot of times exes really try and sabotage applications. But that's not, let's see, Facebook user again. So, hey, Facebook user, if you want to add a comment to your name, then I will know who you are. So, we can talk to you personally. My mom remarried since I've been an adult, and I found out I have step siblings. They live in other states, and I met them once at a wedding. Should I list them? They don't know me, nor do I really know them. Donovan, that's your question. Brandon.
Hey, I would, if they're your step siblings, I would, yeah, you've got to add them, put them on. I mean, like on our online forms, there's a spot for step siblings, whether you know them or not. That's, again, explain it to the background investigator. Exactly what you put there. You just let the background investigator know. I met him at a wedding one time. That's it. I've never met him any other time. But they're people that we need to contact. It just helps us build a case that you do have integrity then.
So here's a question. What if somebody doesn't put step siblings on?
And they know they have them?
Yeah.
Again, it's a conversation. When they come in for that personal history statement, if I say, hey, do you have any other siblings out there, step siblings, whatever, through marriage or whatever, and they're like, nope, I don't have any, and then it comes out later that they just didn't want to tell me, then there's an issue.
I talked to a candidate yesterday, and they asked me. It was funny because it caused me to pause for a second. I'm going, because they asked me, my dad was married to my stepmom, and they're not married anymore. Do I have to list her as my stepmom and my step siblings? And I thought, well, they're not married anymore, so she's not your stepmom and they're not your step siblings, So I don't think so. I don't think I've ever come up against that where it's even become an issue, but my opinion, and I told him this, I said, they're not married anymore, so they're not step anything to you. And the only reason they were step something was because of the marriage certificate. And now it's gone. But if you want to mention it to your BI
Mm-hmm.
and you want to say, hey, they're not married anymore, so I'm not related to them anymore. In that sense, do you want their names? And most likely the BI will say, no, they're not related to you. Does that sound
Right.
fair?
That
Okay.
sounds about fair, yeah. But it's always good to put that out there and let the BI know so that they don't stumble on something and then start questioning you on it later about why didn't you give me this information, So
Yeah, and
yeah.
if it's a current situation where you, for instance, this Brandon says his mom remarried and he found out that he has step siblings and they only met once. If it's
Mm-hmm.
still a current marriage, but they don't know, I always get, but I don't know them. It's a logical
Mm-hmm.
question. I don't know them, so I don't see why I should put them down. I don't even know. I've only met them once. You have to put them down because they're your step siblings. And the easy answer to that is for them to go, only met once, don't really know them, unknown, all the way through the thing. And your background investigator is going to go, fine, that's fine because all I got to do, I got to turn the paperwork in. No matter what, I have to get something back or they refuse or whatever. But you can't not list them.
Right.
So I think that was it. That was kind of weird because I've never thought about that, and I think it's because once a candidate's parents divorce the step parent, you don't. There's no reason to put it down. I've probably never come across it where somebody even asked
Yeah.
me, should I list them?
I've never had that either.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary.
No.
Um, as far as lying goes, this is the outright lies really drive me nuts. The
Mm-hmm.
ones that really irritate me are when I find out someone's lying. I ask them about it in a discrepancy interview, and I'm sitting across from them, and they're going, "Yeah, no, that didn't happen." I go, and I shoot across the paper and go, "Here's the arrest report." Yeah, no, that wasn't me. I'm looking. I'm going to. See. It has your address and everything. Yeah, no, that wasn't me. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
they're lying right to your face. And if there's anything that a background investigator will do is they will super DQ you. You'll
Yep.
get
Yep.
if it's found out that you got caught lying and then you outright deny with all the evidence that and a good background investigator is going to they're not going to fish.
Right.
They're going to come to you with the goods. They're going to have them in hand, and they're going to ask you about it. And your job is just to explain why it wasn't on your PHS. So,
Yep.
have you ever had
Yeah.
candidates just lie to your face?
Oh, so many of them just lie to my face. It's ridiculous. And you have them cornered and they don't even know what to say anymore. They're just denying the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
One thing we just had now, one of my counterparts who's working back by me, we had someone come in who wasn't really interested in our agency, but they filled out the personal history questionnaire and wasn't truthful through the whole process. And something wasn't matching up. And then this person all of a sudden found an agency that they were really interested in. So they had to call us and let us know that they lied on their personal history questionnaire and they were giving us the correct information so that everything would line up for this new agency when they would call to do the background. Since they're in ours, we always kind of match notes.
mhm.
And she wanted to make sure that everything matched up. And we're like, okay, well, now you got a disqualification for integrity issues on our end. So that's going to make it more difficult.
That's an interesting question because there was some debate. Um, there was some debate a while back in the agency I worked for that, for instance, they went to a prior agency and they left something off on purpose
Mm-hmm.
and they got DQ'd for it. Then when they came to our agency, they told the truth because they got caught prior.
Mm-hmm.
And so the debate was, and I've heard this so many times from other agencies, well, they were honest with us. And our application is what matters.
Right.
So if they're honest with your agency, but they lied at another agency, does that mean that they now have integrity?
I don't believe so. Once you start lying at any agency, your integrity is already in question, I believe. That's my stance. I mean, there's going to be other reasons than that, just to disqualify them for, because there's always going to be something that a person like that's going to have rolling around that they forgot about, or they just can't keep the lie. I guess not forgot about, but can't keep the lies straight. You'll come across something, but that's a huge issue, especially with my agency. On if they've lied somewhere else, and they're coming over and they're saying I'm being truthful now. How do you know?
Mm-hmm.
You
Well, are
know,
you being truthful because you got caught, or because
right?
you're remorseful? You saw the error of your ways. Yeah, and I think that once you get branded as a quote unquote liar,
Hmm.
it's hard to get out of that. And I understand second chances, people can be redeemed, all that kind of stuff. You can learn from your mistakes. The problem is that, boy, integrity, honesty, that is such a fine line in police backgrounds.
Hmm.
Such a fine line. That is something that, if you're going to do anything, probably lying isn't one of them, because it's such and in police work, you cannot lie. What's that? Is that what the Brady list applies to?
It applies to, yeah, if you've lied in any sort of official investigation, or in court, anything like that. I don't know that it pertains to backgrounds, but it does pertain to the official like a departmental investigation, or if you're in court or in a report.
But if you don't have integrity and you're a liar,
Hmm.
and you get hired and you lie on the job, um, that is something that you need to learn up front during the application process, that you can't lie.
Right.
You just don't even go down that road, because there's a lot of people that I talked to, a lot of candidates I talked to, and said, my buddy told me that he applied here and he lied during his background and he got away with it. And I'm like, those type of people, maybe they didn't get caught during the background because they were that slick, but maybe down the road, as a police officer, if you have that thread in your personality and you get caught lying,
Hmm.
man, you're going to
It.
get fired.
Yep. It's going to come back to get you at some point. You're going to mess up.
Yeah. And so I would suggest to you, to people who are listening to this, just go ahead and be honest right out of the gate. And I had a
Mhm.
conversation about this recently, in that it's not what you did that will get you DQ'd, it's that you lied about it. You can lie, you can be dishonest or leave something out about the stupidest thing.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just absolutely lame. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. And then you lie about it because you're ashamed or embarrassed or something like that. And
Mhm.
then you get DQ'd for life forever from agencies. What does Brandon have to say?
I think he's asking about like being blackballed out of profession here.
Oh, if that situation arose, could the applicant be unofficially DQ'd by all local agencies? All the local agencies' background investigators talk, I would assume. Do we talk? Do background
We do talk.
investigators
We do talk as long
talk?
as we have a release of information. We'll talk. I wouldn't say that you'd be unofficially DQ'd by all local agencies. There's going to be someone in the area who is going to have some forgiven. I mean, as long as it's nothing horrible, but there's going to be some agency that may pick you up. But I've never heard of anyone being, like this explains, kind of being blackballed out of the whole background process.
And I'm assuming he's talking about if you lied on one agency and then go
Right.
to another agency. Yeah, and it really depends.
But very
That's funny.
subtle, very subtle.
It really depends on the agency. I mean, I don't know. I know a couple people from Seattle PD, fine people. I got no love for Seattle PD based on the news that we read about, about the city.
Mhm.
So Seattle, I think you dodged a bullet on that one. Not working for Seattle. I think you're better off at Federal Way. But um, what was that? What was I going to say? Oh, about getting DQ'd by all agencies. Sometimes it depends on the agency. For instance, a smaller agency, they may not need as many applications or candidates as some agencies do, and so they may be able to be more picky. Now you've got an NYPD, Chicago PD, LAPD, where they're hiring. It's so funny. I forgot to tell you about this. LAPD thinks they're going to hire 780 officers in fiscal year 22, 23. And when I read that, I about laughed out of my chair. And that's not going to happen. So an LAPD size department, they're going to be maybe a little more lenient in that regard. And here we have I have a close friend that works for Federal Way. He loves the agency. Oh, that's a good thing. You don't hear that too often.
Nope, you don't.
So, and while we're here,
you hear people say they love. Hold on, wait now. You hear people say they love Federal Way. All right.
The agency,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, what's not to love about Federal Way though? That's an action city.
It is, man. We've had some big action going on lately, so I think it's a great place to work. I mean, it gives you everything that you want in a police department. So,
yeah, I think Federal Way was just in the news recently about something. But I mean, if you want to if you want to go into police work and actually be busy, then an agency like Federal Way, where they're a busy agency, that's why you go into police work. And don't discount smaller agencies. The majority of agencies in any state are going to be smaller agencies, but pick and choose which ones, because the ones that have the most action, and why a lot of people get into police work because they want that adrenaline rush, is you can find it in smaller cities. So I'm just looking at that Seattle comment.
Yeah, I know. One thing I want to say though is as you talk about, hey, looking at smaller cities and stuff, I think it's important for people to know as you go through this process, if you do get into an agency and you struggle in the field training program, and maybe there's that decision, either you're going to be released or you decide to resign because you're just not keeping up with the pace. There's an agency out there for you. We have that a lot, that people can't keep up with the pace that we work at in the city of Federal Way. And we've had them go to smaller agencies where it's not quite as busy. And man, they flourish. So there's an agency out there for everyone. I think if you get into this business and you struggle through a field training program somewhere, it just may not be the right fit for you, the pace that agency works at, and just look for another agency. Because I'm going to say we need cops. If you get into it and you have all the right intentions, just find that agency that's the right pace for you and the right fit.
Yeah, I had somebody come up to me years ago. This is back in the 80s, and he was talking about, I want to apply at LAPD, and I'm like, yeah, well, you can just, they're hiring. You just go. I want to apply to police. I want to be a police officer. I said, you can go to LAPD. They're always hiring. Big agency, lots of fun, lots of police work. And he goes, oh, I don't want to work like in Los Angeles. I don't want to work like that. And I want to work over here. And he named some town, some little town or something like that. I said, you don't want to be a police officer. You want to say you're a police officer. So
yeah.
And background investigators can tell you, I've had back in the day, we used to call the people that were like, oh, it's so cool. My badge is so cool. And, I got this cool gun. And we used to call them police boys. You're a police boy. And background investigators, we can tell if someone's a police boy. So don't give that vibe off when you go and geek out. And background investigators will most likely document somewhere that you're childlike or immature or something. Right. It's not our job to make a psychological assessment, but everything we write down goes to the psych department. So when they interview you, they'll get our experience and they'll make their determination based if someone's mature enough. But don't go in there with that police boy vibe, because that's just going to sink you so bad. Right. And if you want to be a police officer, pick and choose. I was talking to someone today, and they had two agencies that they applied for. One was where they grew up, and one was the city next to where they grew up. And And he asked me, he says, should I apply at other agencies? I said, no, just leave it at the 2 right now, because you're applying at cities that you have a vested interest in. That's my heart is in these cities. This is where I grew up. This is the area that I know, and I want to get back to these cities. And and I told him, don't go and, in Washington, you click off all the
Mhm.
agencies you want to work for. Don't do that, because all you're doing is you're just clicking buttons, just agencies because they're available. Your heart's not in it. Your heart's not in it. And I, it's really irritating when you do a whole background, Donovan, on somebody. And
Mhm.
I work so hard. Some of them are so much work. And then you call them and go, oh no, I'm going to pass.
Yep.
Dude.
Yep. I know. And it happens all the time. In this market now, it happens more than you would ever imagine because everyone's fighting over these candidates. Now, when you go down and like Ken said, you can click those agencies, or if you go to test at PST and they have those clipboards out, I will tell you, if you're only going for 2 agencies, just add on Federal Way.
Yeah.
We'll show you it's a great agency.
Yeah. Tell it, you know what I was going to do before we go, we've been an hour. Before we
Mhm.
go, let's talk about Federal Way. What are you guys playing, and are you guys still doing a bonus, and what kind of police work can you do in Federal Way?
Yeah, so we're still doing our bonus. We have a $3,000 entry level hiring incentive for those that get hired as entry level. It's paid in 2 installments. One after you pass your day one exam at the academy, which is $1,500, and then another the other half when you complete your 1 year probation. We just settled our contract for the next 3 years, so entry level starting off just over $6,000 a month. Um, and again, we have that phenomenal city retirement plan where we're not paying into Social Security. All that money that goes to Social Security actually goes to a municipal employee benefit trust. So you don't pay. Social Security is not going to be around. No one, everyone knows that. So
Wait,
there's 6
wait.
cities.
I go out
Yeah.
here next year.
There'll be a little left for you, Ken. All right. It's not
Okay.
going to be there for me.
Okay.
But I mean, we have the state plan, but we do this city plan too, where it's 6 agencies or 6 cities around the area that do it, have banded together. So we have that. And as far as police work, we've got our special operations unit that gets out there for the homeless issue that's going on. We have our criminal investigation services, our detectives. They do a fantastic job, and we're always looking for people to take on that task. And then patrol and special operations unit, it's a great time, and for busy, just look Federal Way up. You can go to the Federal Way Mirror, which is the local paper, to see what's going on. We have a lot of action. If that's what you're looking for, I mean, just come on and apply. We've got it for you.
What's this comment from Brandon? I'm not quite sure I understand it.
Yeah, it looks like he's out of state and his wife doesn't want to come back. So I guess we gotta figure out a way to have her come back. So hey, if your wife's looking for a job, we're hiring record specialists right now, along with some other civilian positions. So you both could work at the same agency,
There you
which
go.
is we have some people doing that as well. So that's another thing that could happen. So we're always looking for civilians as well.
And Brandon, you got to be up in Washington State anyways. So you might as well just let her know that there's jobs for her and it's a good place. And I was just talking. Our kids came out to visit us recently, so last weekend, and they recently moved to the PNW, and they were like, just so beautiful out here. Miles and miles of trees and everything. So I can't talk enough about Washington State. And Brandon, I fully expect you to make a decision within, I don't know, by tomorrow, that you will be up here by next month or so. So let's get that done. Yeah, but I got nothing bad to say. I love I love the state. And I've been contacted. It's funny because I don't go out and I say, hey, for the podcast, contact us. We every once in a while say it, but I get contacted by Washington State police departments more often than not. Let's see here. Appreciate you guys' time to do this podcast. I'm in San Diego right now, so it's hard to leave. I remember he's in the military,
Oh,
but soon enough. But thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Yes.
And Donovan, I think that's going to be it for us. If you need a background consultation, get with me, because beginning in January, I just had a consultation myself with a business professional. They contacted me at LinkedIn. I go, okay, that's fine. I'll talk to you. So they talked to me, and they told me that I am not charging enough for my services. So, because I charge $135 for a consultation. Because if I hired Donovan, I said, I want you to do a police background investigation on me, it would cost like $1,400. But I do these consultations, everything but the field work, for $135. So that's not near enough. I'm getting taken, Donovan. So beginning in January, my rates are going to be going up to a $175. So if you want to get your police consultation done for $135 till the end of the year, that's all you have. Get a hold of me. And I am here, policebackground.net. Fill out a contact form, get a hold of me. And then we're going to be back with another live. And we apologize again for not being live more often, but we're going to do that. Donovan will be sending me some topics.
Yes.
And then we'll just jump on here at different times during the month. So I think that's it. Donovan, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
And we will be back soon.
Thanks for listening to the Police Applicant Podcast. We are the premier police background prep site in the U.S. and Canada. For more information on scheduling your police background consultation, go to policebackground.net. Also, please leave us a review on iTunes.